Welcome back in the home studio. It feels like I haven't gotten to do many of these from here over the last couple weeks just because I've been all over the place between Christmas and the 49ers road games at Seattle and then obviously at Las Vegas just a couple days ago. It has been a lot of traveling. So today we're going to talk about the 49ers weaknesses because they definitely have some to address, particularly on defense. Over their past two games, the 49ers haven't exactly been dominant defensively. So for that, Ted Nguyen's article. This is available up on The Athletic, and he wrote this morning. He's football film analysis on Twitter, and he broke it down into three nice sections to really simplify what the 49ers defense is going to have to do. So I will copy and paste this link and put it in the description. I'll also put it in the chat section right now. Ted does great film analysis work, and we're going to talk about the three overarching issues that he would like to see the 49ers fix on defense because we saw them as a team just be completely dominant from week 8, second half against the Rams, week 8 up until that Seattle game. That was a dominant defensive performance. But after the win against Seattle, Washington broke the 49ers 17 points or fewer allowed streak, right? Washington got up to 20. And then the Raiders obviously shattered even that and got up above 30. And the Raiders did a number on the 49ers defense. They racked up 500 yards. They were able to crush 100 yards rushing. We saw the quarterback performance from Jarrett Stidham be the second most productive quarterback performance against the 49ers this year at 365 yards, behind only Mahomes, who surpassed 420 back in week 7. So the question now is, can the 49ers rediscover their defensive dominance from weeks 8 to 15, moving forward here into week 18 and then into the postseason? So that's what Ted wrote about. Go ahead and check it out. I put the link into the comments section, and we're going to go through the three keys. He does a really good job breaking down some of the film. But hole number one that the 49ers need to close up, QB rushing lanes. I mean, Jarrett Stidham isn't the fastest guy in the world, but he picked up 3 first downs with his legs. He also was able to escape the pocket and deliver off schedule, most notably on the 60-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Adams early in the third quarter. The 49ers have a little bit of a catch-22 with their pass rush. These guys love to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback in the wide 9, right? So everybody's stretched out along that line of scrimmage. The defensive ends are at a position to where they can use speed to get around the tackles. But when that happens and you don't hit instantaneously like the 49ers did back in 2019 with Dee Ford, you end up exposing yourself to some wide rushing lanes for the quarterback. So you're taking a big risk when you're lining up in the wide 9, pinning your ears back. You have to get to that QB really, really quickly, or else there's going to be some room for that quarterback to run. And we saw Jarrett Stidham run. We saw a little bit of it against Washington, too. We saw a little bit of quarterback movement. But in the most part right here, for the most part, the 49ers need to adapt their technique to tailor their current personnel. And they did this late in the game against the Raiders, and they ended up winning. I asked Nick Bosa about it today. I said, I noticed on that last rush where you backed Colton Miller into Stidham, and Stidham got hit by Miller thanks to Bosa, and he threw the interception to Deshaun Gibson. Told Bosa, I noticed you went bull rush. You don't always go bull rush. Nick Bosa's a hand technician. Nick Bosa's an athlete, right? Nick Bosa can get around opposing tackles. And he said, yeah, well, we weren't getting to Stidham in time by finesse rushing. So we decided as a group that we had to go with physical power rushing. So Bosa just decided to back Colton Miller straight into Stidham. That was the adjustment the 49ers made to A, close the QB rushing lanes, but B, just get to the QB in general. Now, the 49ers didn't have any sacks, but Bosa had 10 pressures. And ultimately, in the game against the Raiders, they made the pressure effective. That's how they won at the end. But before that, it wasn't all too effective, right? And the 49ers struggled on defense throughout the game. So it's time for the 49ers to recognize, and I believe that they recognized this down the stretch against the Raiders when they made their adjustments. It's time for them to truly recognize that this pass rush is not as good as the 2019 version. You don't have D Ford. You don't have DeForest Buckner. You don't have DJ Jones. You still have very capable pass rushers. It's still one of the best pass rushes in the league, but it is not an airtight pass rush to where you could just line up wide nine, ears pinned back, and finesse speed rush around the edge. You're going to leave way too many openings, especially against some of the mobile quarterbacks. But as Nick Bosa pointed out after the game against the Raiders, Tom Brady could have run through some of the holes that the 49ers pass rush was leaving. It was not good enough to make up for the lack of discipline that the wide nine can bring, right? If everybody's so wide, those holes are going to be big for the quarterback to step through. So the 49ers figured it out late against the Raiders by mixing in some good power rushes, some good bull rushes. And they're going to have to do more of the same. They're going to have to continually diversify their pass rushing techniques. And they're going to have to be very, very particular and specific about this from lineman 1 to lineman 5. If they got 5 out in the formation, sometimes they've got 5 linemen out there. And these pass rushing techniques must meld with blitzes. They must be unpredictable, and they must be staggered in a way that prevents quarterbacks from rushing through the Red Sea. The Red Sea cannot part for opposing quarterbacks. Can Chris Kasarik architect this? Well, he's going to have to do it within the context of the entire defense. So he's going to be working with DeMeco Ryans, but I think that the 49ers can make the appropriate nuanced adjustments up front, such as the one they made with Nick Bosa bull rushing Colton Miller to take care of hole one moving forward. And it's going to be of paramount importance to do that before the playoffs, because once, if you do face Jalen Hurts, if he does come back and you do face the Eagles, he's a guy that's really going to take advantage of rushing lanes in the middle of the field. But again, remember Bosa's comment, even Tom Brady could have run through some of those lanes. It's a chance the 49ers face Tom Brady again. If you leave enough of an opening, even a pocket-style quarterback is going to be able to capitalize on it. And the 49ers, they're a little vulnerable, or I should say susceptible to that, given how they're constructed. So they have to be absolutely certain that they have this set up in the right way. And it's just going to take some tinkering up front, some good adjustments up front, playing chess while your opponent is playing checkers with your rushing techniques and your diversification of rushes between all 4 guys to stay a step ahead of the offense. Hole number 2, 49ers defense needs to tighten up its cornerback 2 and safety leaks as much as possible. And we'll start by talking about cornerback 2. This is the cornerback performance chart. On the x-axis, you have receiving yards allowed per target. So you'd rather be to the left on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, you have forced incompletion rate. So how often is a cornerback breaking up a pass or, forcing an incompletion? So you want to be further up along the y-axis. So you want your cornerback's dot to be here in the upper left. As you can see here, the upper left is marked lockdown. The bottom left, even though the forced incompletion rate is lower, the yards allowed per target is low. So those are solid cornerbacks. The right side, the receivers are allowing a lot of yards per target, but they're also good at forcing incompletions. It's go big or go home, boom or bust on the right side. And then the bottom right side over here, that's top right. The bottom right side is good at neither, giving up a lot of receiving yards per target and also not doing well in forced incompletion rates. So look where Charvarius Ward is right here. I'm circling Charvarius Ward with my cursor. Charvarius Ward is in the lockdown quadrant. So that's all great. He was an ideal signing for the 49ers. They really needed a player of Charvarius Ward's caliber to take this defense to the next level. Remember, losing to the Rams in the NFC Championship game last year had a lot to do with the 49ers cornerbacks getting burnt down the stretch of that game. But although Charvarius Ward is in this lockdown quadrant where you want him to be, you can go to the bottom right quadrant and you see liabilities. Diamondor Lenoir is there. Diamondor Lenoir is where you don't want a corner to be. According to this, according to 2 relatively solid metrics, Diamondor Lenoir has been a liability for the 49ers, and the 49ers must close these cornerback and safety leaks. The reason I say safety leaks, well, the Raiders came out with a good game plan. The 49ers thought they're going to pound the football. 49ers safeties, especially Talanoa Hufanga, didn't exactly do a good job of holding off on some of those play fakes, right? The play fakes were coming in strong from the Raiders, and the first possession, Darren Waller was able to get past the defense for the touchdown. Later on, Deommodore Lenoir got picked on by a number of different Raiders receivers. Obviously, Davante Adams was one of them, but then in zone coverage, the Raiders were able to get Lenoir matched up against Waller, who's 6'7". That wasn't a good matchup. Deommodore Lenoir against Fabian Moreau, the tight end, who I believe is 6'5" or 6'6". Not a good matchup. Listen, a lot of this is the Raiders. They're actually specially designed offensively with their skill position weapons like Waller, like Moreau, like Davante Adams, like Josh Jacobs and his ability to run. They are designed to give you matchup headaches. And you have to give credit to Josh McDaniels for putting these matchup headaches onto the 49ers plate. But at the end of the day, every single NFL team is going to have exceptional targets, and some of them are going to have exceptional quarterbacks, and they're going to try to strain an opposing defense as much as possible. And if the 49ers can't learn how to hold off of biting on a play fake, or if they don't get better at the point of catch, when it comes to Deommodore Lenoir, then they're going to get roasted in the postseason. So Lenoir has to improve, and I don't want to say continually improve because it's been 2 steps forward, sometimes 2 steps back, maybe even 3 steps back during the Raiders game because they were able to expose him there. But there has been some forward progress from Deommodore Lenoir this year. And it's going to be key that he finds a way to latch onto that forward progress and continue to extend it. Now, a lot of what's happening with the hole 2 is going to be solved by hole 1. If the 49ers get more creative, better, keep the offense off balance with their rushing lanes, quarterbacks won't be able to extend the play as much. And then you have rush fueling coverage. So hole 1 and hole 2, patching up hole 1 should help hole 2. But the cornerbacks and Talanoa Hufanga, Tashawn Gibson, whoever on the back end, they still need to be better with their eyes, with their positioning, because we remember the leaky coverage going back even to the Washington game where the Commanders picked up many, many third and longs that they should not have picked up. So it's time for D'Amico Ryans, Daniel Bullocks, Corey Unlin, 49ers cornerbacks coach. Bullocks is the safeties coach. Johnny Holland, linebackers coach. It's time for that entire defensive staff to sit down and make sure that the 49ers tighten the screws here, because the past 2 weeks would not leave them comfortable enough with their defensive performance heading into the playoffs. And finally, this is again from Ted's article, hole number 3. And here's Ted's article up on the screen again. 49ers must do a better job defending some of these screen passes. Again, the wide 9 defensive alignment is an extremely aggressive one where the defensive linemen are pinning their ears back and trying to get after the quarterback, and they're rushing with reckless abandon. They're not reading as much as different different upfront schemes, D-line schemes in the NFL. The 49ers are go, go, go. Players love it, simplifies things at the line, but you are susceptible to the switcheroo, the screen pass, right? You get too easily upfield. All of a sudden, the running back and the blockers are behind you. And then Josh Jacobs has got a cadre of blockers in front of him. And you're like, oh, shit, what just happened, right? So the 49ers have to be better against screen passes. And they followed this, they ran into this same issue back in 2019 when their pass rush was dominant. They started getting screened to death. Their pass rush is, again, really good. It's not as good as 2019, but the screen passes are still popular against the 49ers because of how aggressively they rush. 49ers have what they call stack monsters. Stack monsters are defensive linemen who turn into pursuers of the screen as soon as they identify it. The stack monsters for the 49ers, that begins with Eric Armstead. Joan Kinlaw's got to be one of them too. Everybody. Nick Bosa can be one of them. These guys have to identify when a screen pass is coming so that they know a second earlier than they have been knowing that it's coming, or even a half second. Even a quarter of a second makes a big difference. You identify when the screen is coming, and then with that, you're able to turn around and bolt back the other way, show off your athleticism to tackle the ball carrier before the gain turns into a problem. So these 3 defensive holes to fix: close the quarterback rushing lanes, fix some of those secondary issues, tighten up the coverage, and then fix the screen pass issues. If you do all 3 here for the 49ers, you'll get that defense back on track. And I think the first 2 especially These are big. Those are the biggest ones because I don't think they've been particularly bad against screens this year, although in their losses or in their worst defensive performances, the screen defense has notably taken a step down from when the 49ers have won. Against the Cardinals this weekend, the 49ers will have a big advantage. They're 2-touchdown favorites. The Cardinals will be starting their fourth quarterback of the season in David Blau. They're not going to have DeAndre Hopkins. Their pass protection has been shaky at best this season. The 49ers have already blown Arizona out. They have another chance to do so, and Vegas favors them to do so in this game on Sunday. So the 49ers are in a situation here where, it would be bad if they didn't win just because you think they should be able to, I don't want to say sleepwalk their way into a victory, but they should be able to win this game handily. And if they do win, well, we should take a look at the playoff picture. Let me open this up on the screen. Here we go. The 49ers, there's a series of options based on what happens this weekend. And I put this up on my Twitter. So I order these in the order of likelihood based on point spread. So we have option A, we have option B, we have option C, and we have option D. Depending on which one of these hits, then there are sub-options regarding the 49ers opponent. So first of all, option A, if the 49ers beat Arizona, they're 14-point favorites. That is the most likely scenario this weekend. Say the 49ers beat the Cardinals while Philadelphia beats the New York Giants. Philadelphia also a 14-point favorite. So assuming the large favorites win, the 49ers will play in the wild card round as the number 2 seed, and there would be 3 options: Green Bay, Seattle, or Detroit. The reason why Green Bay is the most likely option to play the 49ers under option A is because if the Packers simply win this weekend at home against the Detroit Lions, they will be in the playoffs. So Green Bay at 49ers is your most likely wild card scenario right now when you look at all the options. Green Bay against the 49ers, 2 against 7. Now, if Green Bay doesn't win and Seattle wins instead, right? So no Green Bay win, but a Seattle win over the Rams, then it'll be Seahawks 49ers in the first round of the playoffs at Levi Stadium. If Seattle loses to the Rams and then Detroit beats Green Bay, then it'll be the Detroit Lions against the 49ers in the wild card round at Levi Stadium. But that would take a pair of underdogs winning, so that's the least likely. So if the 49ers beat the Cardinals, you're most likely going to have Packers at 49ers in the first round. Now, option B, what if the 49ers beat the Cardinals, but the Giants also beat the Eagles? Well, in that case, the 49ers would leapfrog the Eagles, and they'd have a bye in the wild card round. Option B is obviously the 49ers' preferred option, but it's not as likely as option A because the Giants are 2-touchdown underdogs against the Eagles. They'll be playing at the same time as the 49ers and the Cardinals, so Shanahan can keep his eye on the scoreboard. Around halftime, he can decide what he wants to do with some of his most prominent players in case he wants to shield them down the stretch of this game. He could really, really base it on New York and Philadelphia playing in the afternoon. Minnesota and the Bears, they play earlier because Minnesota is part of option C here. If the 49ers lose to Arizona and Minnesota beats Chicago, the 49ers will drop to the number 3 seed because Minnesota will re-leapfrog them after the 49ers leapfrogged the Vikings last week. And the 49ers would play the 6th seed, which would likely be the New York Giants. Almost certainly, I think it'd be the New York Giants, actually, because they've already locked that up. So it'd be the New York Giants at the 49ers in the wild card round if the 49ers lose and Minnesota beats Chicago. If the 49ers lose to Arizona and Chicago beats Minnesota, which is the least likely of all outcomes this weekend because the 49ers, again, are 14-point favorites and Minnesota, their favorite against Chicago. Well, if that happens, the 49ers would stay as the 2 seed because Minnesota didn't capitalize on their loss, and you could revert back to the A list. The A list is Green Bay at 49ers, most likely. Packers winning, they're in. Seattle at 49ers, second most likely in case Detroit takes care of Green Bay and Seattle wins, or Detroit at 49ers in case Detroit wins and Seattle loses to LA. So it is fairly complicated, but hopefully I painted that in as simple of a manner as possible. That's what makes 49ers and Cardinals relevant this weekend. Now, one thing about the Cardinals is these guys are terrible defending yards after the catch. They've given up the most yards after the catch of any team in football. Budda Baker broke his shoulder a couple weeks ago. He's on IR. That is the Cardinals' best defensive back. The 49ers racked up 152 yards after the catch against Arizona and Mexico City. And we know that the 49ers offense actually ranks number 1 in the NFL at generating yards after the catch. Now, interestingly, Arizona's defense is the best in the NFL efficiency-wise against deep passes, but they are the worst against short passes, which makes sense. They're bad against short passes because they can't tackle, can't stop yards after the catch, but they can cover deep downfield. Plays right into the 49ers' hands because Brock Purdy actually has a lower average depth of target than even Jimmy Garoppolo. So with Purdy, the 49ers have been even more aggressively striving to facilitate yak. They had Garoppolo play a really good game against Arizona and Mexico City, and I think Brock Purdy is lined up for a big performance against the Cardinals in this game. Here's a PSA for everybody. A lot of hand-wringing online about Javon Kinlaw not practicing on Wednesday. Well, newsflash. Javon Kinlaw gets Wednesdays off. They're managing his knee, and they announced right when they brought him back a couple weeks ago that he wouldn't be practicing on Wednesdays. So a lot of the fake outrage can stop right now. Javon Kinlaw not practicing again. This is actually the plan. They practice him on Thursday and Friday, and they're going to tend to this issue more fully in the offseason. But they want Kinlaw ready for these weekend games. And according to the past 2 weeks, the plan is working. Kinlaw's looked good. He's been healthy. And the 49ers have seen this after Kinlaw has taken those Wednesdays off. All right, Lombardi, 49ers Q&A. I almost put this up here. Lombardi will be right back. This is what happens when I need to go and get a drink of water or something. But for now, I could do a couple questions. Then I'm going to call it a little bit of an earlier night. I think it's time to go watch the Warriors. That's always exciting around the second half or so. And second half is probably right now. What's the Warriors score, by the way? Somebody let me know the score of the game. That will let me know how much of a hurry I need to be in. Score and time left in the game would be much appreciated. Put it in the chat section. Then I'll answer some questions. And then I will head off and watch some basketball. That game the other night was insane with DiVincenzo tying it up at the end of regulation. Ooh, Detroit, 68-64. So how much time left? Third quarter, I'm guessing? So no Curry yet, right? So the Warriors, I mean, but they've won 5 in a row. Been fun to watch. Brock Purdy got the courtside seats the other day with Deebo Samuel, the courtesy Joe Lacob, Warriors owner. 9 minutes left in the third. Got it. 70-66. Appreciate it. All right, cool. We can go on for a little bit here. I don't think the NBA matters till like the fourth quarter anyway. If it's the playoffs, I'll watch sooner. But gosh, I mean, these games just back and forth. Warriors game the other night, they played Atlanta, right? They played Atlanta, and that game didn't matter till the last minute. It didn't matter till like 0.6 seconds remained, and they tied the game up, and then they had a full double overtime. Paid tickets for that game. You would have gotten your money's worth just in the final 10 minutes, 10 minutes and 0.6 seconds, right? If you were there just for that, would have been exciting. The rest of the thing is just there to fill time, in my opinion, like the NFL, because in the NFL, it all matters. I mean, the whole game is, especially once you get to the playoffs, the whole game is intense. Do I think that the 49ers should claim Xavier Rhodes? It's intriguing. Former first rounder, Xavier Rhodes, just recently waived/released. Was he waived or released? That's what I got to figure out, because I don't know if he'd be eligible for waivers. I have to look at that really quickly. I thought that he was simply released by the Bills. But anyway, the 49ers, I mean, I talk about cornerback help that they might need. And that second spot right now is tenuous. We've seen this kind of up and down play. I think it's a generally ascending graph for Dialmino Lenore, but against the Raiders in particular, he was exposed. The Raiders have weapons to expose you. The Cardinals won't have those types of weapons. No DeAndre Hopkins. But then you move into the playoffs and you may run into opposition like that. So it's one of those things where you're constantly going to be striving to be better if you're the 49ers. I do think they believe in Diamondor Lenore. I don't think he's as bad as people are making him out to be. The Raiders have caused a lot of teams trouble this year with their offense and with the size and with the skill of their receivers. But I do know that the 49ers have, one really pronounced weakness on the back end, and it is at that cornerback 2 position. I don't think that Jackrabbit Jenkins is going to play unless there's an injury on Sunday. I mean, down the stretch, maybe the 49ers will throw him in there if all the seating and everything is locked up. But Shanahan didn't seem like he was in a position where he was thinking about replacing Diamondor Lenore with somebody else on the roster. I mean, Janoris Jenkins is 34 years old. So, I mean, this is not a corner that's in his prime. You saw the Josh Norman experiment last year. The 49ers probably would rather go with the player with a little bit more upside that they can develop here. If push comes to shove and it turns into an absolute bloodbath at cornerback, yes, you've got Janoris Jenkins, or Jackrabbit Jenkins, as they call him, on the roster. But that's about it. You can't, look at this any more deeply than that, because he is 34 years old and they did, just struggle to get him onto the practice squad here a few weeks ago. He did play some good snaps against Seattle, though, after Charvarius Ward exited that game hurt. Who do the 49ers want to see least in the first round? Here's a news flash. I don't think they care. I think the 49ers are confident, and I think you should be if you're the 2 seed that you could beat a 7 seed. So you're not really worried about who you're going to play in the first round. That we know they have the Packers number. They beat them every single season in the playoffs when they have the Packers on the schedule. It happened in 2019. It happened again last season at Lambeau. It'd be at home. There is no Devontae Adams on the Packers roster anymore. It's a situation where everybody's afraid of Green Bay, but the 49ers have demonstrated that they're better than Green Bay. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is playing good football right now. The defense is starting to come on for Green Bay. But guess who's playing even better football? The 49ers. They're 9-0. They're about to be 10-0 over their last 10 games. They haven't lost since Christian McCaffrey joined as a full-time participant in that week after the 49ers played the Rams. So I don't think that the 49ers mind that much who they play in the first round. But it's in all likelihood, if they do play in the first round, it's going to be the Detroit Lions, least likely. Seattle Seahawks, second least likely. And the Green Bay Packers, most likely. And there still is an outside chance that the 49ers play the New York Giants. Looking through some more questions here. Some fans' obsession with a 34-year-old corner. Well, fans always love the guy that's on the bench, right? Whether it be the quarterback position or the backup running back. People love that. People always like who's on the bench. And then as soon as you start making mistakes in the game, they're going to like the other guy to replace you. Just how it goes. Question from JC. Do you think players will be a bit cautious when making contact after what happened on Monday night? I hope not, because that's just going to open them up for more injuries. You have to mentally get to a place in the sport of football where Kyle Shanahan calls it a dark place. You have to fully invest yourself in playing these games. If you're thinking about half-assing it, you're going out there 80, 85%, that's when you open yourself up to actually get hurt. I mean, you'll have a bigger probability of getting hurt. So the reason, and there are several reasons, but one of the main reasons why I thought it was a good idea to stop the game the other night was because it would have been dangerous to keep on playing. You saw the looks on those guys' faces, understandably so. There was CPR being administered on the field. You have to make sure that guys can be fully invested in playing the game. You need to get some more tea here. We won't know the playoff schedule until the matchups are announced, so I can't speculate if the 49ers are going to play Saturday or Sunday. Those are usually television decisions. Mike Fuss asks, if the 49ers are up by 10 at halftime against the Cardinals, sit Purdy and let Josh Johnson finish the game. What do you think? 10's not that huge of a lead. I think it's going to depend on what's going on in Philadelphia and what happened at the 10 a.m. start in Chicago between the Vikings and the Bears. Eagles and 49ers will be on at the same time. Yes. No, I don't think that Shanahan's going to limit starters' play time due to the weather at all. I think that the 49ers are going out trying to win this game. If anything starts limiting play time, again, it will be if the Vikings lose to the Bears, I would lock up the 2, right? Vikings lose to the Bears, the 2 is locked up, the 2 seed. And then even if there's a chance of the 1, but the Eagles take a big lead, that's when you might see the 49ers ease off the accelerator in this game. But unfortunately, that Eagles game against the Giants is happening simultaneously to the 49ers game, and the 49ers really want as high of a seed as possible. Who has to step up most on the line outside of Nick Bosa? Well, the issue is that the 49ers just don't have a truly premier talent opposite Nick Bosa that they did in 2019 when they were healthy, D Ford, right? For the wide 9, they really want 2 premier guys. They've got a bunch of solid guys. I mean, Charles Omenihu's solid. Sansom Ebukam is solid. Jordan Willis has been solid. So you need the collective of those guys to play as well as possible. But I think that in general, you want that defensive line to be working in cohesion. It's not one guy when these running lanes for QBs open up. It's the problem is that everybody's too spaced out, and because you're not dominant, you're not hitting the snap of a finger from both edges, then those spacings get exposed, right? So the key for the 49ers is working in cohesion, in tandem, in whatever you call it, when you got 4 guys working at once, and then mix in the right blitzes there to make sure that you're closing off potential quarterback running lanes. And to do that, you've got to be playing chess while the offense is playing checkers. So you leave that up to Chris Kasarik and D'Amico Ryans to create the best strategy possible to make it work with the wide 9 and this personnel against opponents. Lightning says people say, oh, Deebo Samuel's coming back, Elijah Mitchell's coming back, but I say just sit them and not risk. We're playing a really bad team. It's not really worth it. Well, but remember when the 49ers played Kansas City this year and they had a bunch of defensive guys coming off of injuries that didn't practice, that were coming cold turkey off of their injury, right? Didn't play the week before either. Charvarius Ward got hurt the week before, didn't practice, played badly. Nick Bosa didn't play the week before, didn't really practice, played poorly. Same thing for offensive guys. You want to get their feet wet before the playoffs. You want to get Deebo out there before the playoffs, right? You want to get Elijah Mitchell out there. He hasn't been out there in a long time before the playoffs. So I think that you're going to see these players. Maybe you're not going to see them at a 100% full snap count, but there is a good reason to actually see them play in this game. Exactly. Mike said it nicely here. Get that rust off. No rematch between Mooney, Ward, and Hopkins. Hopkins going to be out. You know, this is going to be J.J. Watt's final career game. J.J. Watt an illustrious career, one of the best that Kyle Shanahan has ever schemed against, announced that he's going to retire at the end of the season. Arizona's 4-12. They're not making the playoffs. So this is going to be it for JJ Watt, and the 49ers will get to see him put on that last effort. So it's going to be up to Trent Williams. It's going to be up to Mike McGlinchey, who's playing great football for the 49ers this year. Another really good game for Mike McGlinchey against Max Crosby. Mike texted me the other day, said, I think that Mike McGlinchey's priced himself out of a 49ers uniform next year. I mean, he could make $15 million a year. He's top half pass protection and run blocking. And it was somebody tweeted it on the 49ers, but then deleted it right after that said that McGlinchey made himself a lot of money with how he performed against Max Crosby. Well, he's going to get to go against JJ Watt in Watt's final career game. We're going to check in on Jimmy Garoppolo probably this week. We'll probably have a little bit of a status update there. I saw him very briefly last week in the locker room. Either this week or next week. We're coming up on we're going to be at 5 weeks on Sunday, right? So that window, the 6 to 8 week window, would open the following week with the wild card round. So we'll see how Jimmy Garoppolo is progressing in that regard. No, I don't think Hufanga is going to make an all-pro team. Pro Bowl is easier to make than all-pro, theoretically. All-pro's the top 2 at every position. I don't, Hufanga's a really good player. Not sure that Hufanga's a top 2 safety yet. Still has some stuff to work on in coverage. Earlier in the season, he was struggling with some missed tackles. That's gotten a bit better for Hufanga. Really good instincts, breakout year. Everything's been fun for Talanoa Hufanga, but there still are some issues to address. I'm not sure. There's speculation that Jalen Hurts is more hurt than the Eagles are letting on. So I'm not sure what his status is going to be this week and moving forward. I mean, if it's like the Jimmy Garoppolo shoulder sprain last year, that thing lingered and it eventually did require surgery. So these are always things that you just have to wait and see what happens. And there's obviously been a lot of murkiness around that injury. Congratulations to Patrick Willis. He is, for the 2nd straight year, a Pro Bowl finalist. We'll find out during the Super Bowl in about a month if Patrick Willis is, a Pro Bowl, a Hall of Fame finalist, Patrick Willis. He's retired. He's again a Hall of Fame finalist. We'll find out before the Super Bowl if he's actually been voted in this year. All right. Don't know how much longer I'm going to want to go here. Preserve the voice a little bit. Came home from Vegas, as one does, coughing a little bit, but healthy now, just getting that voice back up to speed. Recovered on Tuesday from week 17. No updates on the Bengals-Bills game. Somebody asking about that. No real tangible updates lately on DeMar Hamlin either. As far as I understand, still in critical condition. We were going to go to a club, but I'll throw her under the bus. My fiance ended up falling asleep, and we could not get her to wake up. So it was going to be, I think, DJ Marshmello was playing at Club XS, but that didn't end up happening. For New Year's, though, we did go out to somebody's house. 49ers season ticket holder, Jamie. Shout out to him. Shout out to Jamie and Jen. That was awesome. Sweet place out in Vegas, just overlooking everything. Saw the fireworks. I think I posted a video up there on Twitter. So it was a good time out in Vegas. And then we went to the hockey game, as you guys probably saw. I put a video there. That one went to overtime, tied up with 1.4 seconds to go. It was sweet. Nashville was playing the Vegas Golden Knights, and then obviously 49ers Raiders also went into overtime. It was quite the memorable weekend in Sin City. Yeah, I guess. We ended up hitting the casino and everything while she was asleep, so it was good. Just didn't end up hitting the club. I'm 34 now. At 24, would have been a different story. Past my prime, past the partying prime, that's for sure. I could still fill in that lineup, but I'm Janoris Jenkins now. I'm 34. I'm not a starting cornerback anymore. So just I'm a valuable member deeper down on the roster. Somebody says the 49ers won their trap game. Most teams don't. It's just a rivalry game against the Raiders. You never know what you're going to get in a rivalry, and they've got to give the Raiders credit for showing up. Best food I had in Vegas, Nobu Sushi. Unreal. Really good sushi. And had these Wagyu dumplings and just, yeah, Asian small plates basically in the Virgin Hotel. Nobu Sushi was really good. Appreciate you, Mark. Thank you. When is Roger Craig going to get into the Hall of Fame? That's a really good question. I don't know. Should be there already. Roger Craig was the first one to go 1,000 receiving and rushing. Second player ever to do it, Christian McCaffrey. Both in 49ers uniforms at some point of their careers. Craig did it in the 80s. Christian McCaffrey did it a couple years ago. And Christian McCaffrey is now an absolute star for the 49ers. Saw a bunch of celebrities at the game, but outside of the game, I don't think I saw any celebrities, no. And a lot of famous people at football games, right? Yeah, Craig not being in the Hall of Fame is like Christian McCaffrey not being in the Pro Bowl. It's a good analogy. They got to investigate how Christian McCaffrey uh, got snubbed from the Pro Bowl this year. He's leading the league in all-purpose yardage. I mean, that's just like kind of on the simple measure, right? It's like, duh. This guy, he's so, maybe the voting is antiquated because people are thinking in terms of running back doing running back stuff and receiver doing receiver stuff. So he's kind of not fitting into either one of those two. Jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. But he's a master of both trades. That's the truth of it. And I mean, it's 2022. It's time that voting for the Pro Bowl is able to correctly account for a player who is versatile because versatile offenses are here and they're here to stay in the NFL. Geno and Cousins are the NFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Yeah, that tells you about all you need to know. I thought Elijah Mitchell looked explosive today. Yeah. Maybe that's one I could pull up here for you. I didn't really. Here. I'll just show you the video. We're not filming any of the team period stuff, but we do see some of the warm ups and pass patterns that these guys are running, and you could tell that Elijah Mitchell looks healthy from that. As far as explosiveness within the context of a game, well, we'll have to see that a little bit later. But here's Elijah Mitchell at practice today. Split out wide for a pass. Remember, he's coming off the MCL. Cut looks fine. Is that at full speed? Maybe not. Maybe at 80%. But to me, it looked like, and especially after talking to Elijah last week, I don't think he's concerned about not being 100%. I think they were going to wait until he was 100% to open his practice window. He is 100% now, and you'll get to see him in this video run a few pass patterns. Now, it was one of those rainy days. It's probably raining right now. I was worried that we're going to lose power tonight. Hopefully, we don't lose power because I want to watch the end of the Warriors game. Give me a score update, please. Score in time because I want to go watch the fourth quarter. But anyway, the if the power goes out like it has in some spots of the Bay Area, it'd be a lot harder to watch basketball. Is there a chance for Purdy to win Rookie of the Year? Absolutely, especially if he finishes strong here in this last game. Still 3 more years for Christian McCaffrey under contract with the 49ers after this one. Robbie Gold is playing like copper recently. That's funny. Hey, he missed one kick there at the end of the game. He's still made almost every single game-winning kick for the 49ers. So let's just. Oh, wow. Detroit's up by 3. How much time left? Fourth about to start. All right. That means it's time to go. I've been going for 45 minutes. So let's go watch some Warriors basketball. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the look at Elijah Mitchell. Dennis Jackson, Drake Jackson's dad, joined me on the show right before this. Go check that out because Dennis was cheering for the Raiders. His son made an interception. It's an awesome story. Dennis was on. So go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to the channel. Check out Ted's article about the 49ers defensive weaknesses that I put up there earlier. It's all going to be in that chat section, and I'll put it into the description for you as well. So subscribe everywhere you can. Hit that notification icon, and let's go check out the end of the Warriors game. Everybody stay safe out in that cyclone, right? That's a cyclone, yeah. Crazy stuff out there. Have a good Wednesday night.